What's up, guys? Let's look at some of my fastest dungeon teams. So these are the teams that are actually my fastest runs. Not all of those teams are actually in use. So this video is more of a showcase of the teams that I do use. All of them are sub 20 seconds, except for one over there, which is the team that we have over here. These teams, I have tried a whole bunch of stuff to get R5 to sub 20 seconds. Ain't gonna happen. And you probably do know Necron average sub 20 seconds ain't gonna happen as well. Spiritual Realm, I just simply don't care about. But let me showcase you some of the teams that I'm using these days. This is such an old team. I have never run that ever because it's not really consistent. But let's actually look at the consistent runs that I can do. And then also I'll showcase why I farm certain things in Scout Battle rather than just farming them normal. So first of all, the Giants team. This is currently the fastest Giants team out there. You can replace the Homunculus by a Hemo. Hemo is technically better, but it's also less safe. And why is it less safe is because the Hemo doesn't always use an S2. If he were to always use S2, he would be 100% better because he has a chance to do his S2 in both the mid stage and the final stage. However, the Homunculus, if he uses a S3 in the mid stage, he cannot do that in the final stage, which makes him a lot worse. So for that reason, we hope that we have a death break from this bat. This bat is used because he has the shortest animation to clear the waves after the Julie hit. Plus on the S1, it's 100% activation for a defense break. So then you have fastest run out there. With the Hemo, it would be as fast as this. The only issue is if the bat misses a defense break, really I would do a late defense break, then a Hemo is a lot better for cleanup than this Homunculus. Because we could go into the scenario that if some of those two start missing defense breaks, that the Homunculus moves right now in the mid stage. If Homunculus moves in the mid stage, there's no S3 available in this final stage. And then the Homunculus goes for an S2, and with the S2, you cannot get that rotation right there for a full-on clear. However, this is still about like 19-ish to 18-ish second average, which we can also see over here. My fastest average on this team was an 18.5. Quickly showcasing the individual runes. You can also, of course, go to the video description down below. And there I'll have like the videos posted with like the individual teams and also do showcase all of the runes over there. These teams are not easy to build by all means. Like, I can definitely tell you that much. These teams are not easy to build at all. Artifact-wise, add damage is over there. And then we have some damage water and CD low. This one is damage water and CD max. Then this one is damage water and then whatever crit damage improvers. And then also damage on water and crit damage improvers. Moving on to the next team, which is going to be Dragons, which I actually have a faster average time than I have in Giants these days. Yep, it's always rotating back and forth, like what's the easiest / fastest dungeon to farm current day and age. With the current teams we're having, without LD5s, Dragons is the fastest to do, and that is with this team. It is the Julie one-shot team, and we have a triple fight with even Luna triple fight, and the Luna is missing a relic. Damn, guess I normally use my second Luna rather than my first Luna. Ah, I see. So, good to check that. Always do have your relics over there. So even we're getting the 17 seconds without the relic. What's more just all about the Julie over here. The Julie has to be in a really great state. I did do some optimization. Apparently, I always thought that Fatal was my best set on this to get as much damage in. But apparently, it is a rage set that is slightly better after checking out some damage calculations with the damage optimized from Moses SW. I'll leave a link to that in the description down below as well. And then we have just some crit damage low and then some damage fire. This one we also have some damage fire and then some whatever stuff. This one does do a little bit of chip damage. We might as well just give it a little bit of damage as well. And then for you of course also do damage and then crit damage, fire damage and all of that kind of good stuff. So what is this run about? Well, Julie one-shots the wave. That's pretty much all you need to know. Can this run fail? Yes, it can fail. And the main fail comes from the Shaina not defense breaking and then the Ikaru not teaming up with the Shaina. Shaina is the main defense breaker in here. In this case, we did have a backup from the Ikaru defense breaking or teaming up with the Shaina, and therefore it was fine. Shaina does have enough accuracy to get to the 15 rate by herself. The only issue is that double 15 is still like a 3 or point something % chance to fail or something. That there's a slight chance to fail. But in that case, you have the backup from the Ikaru right there to have still a team up. You can place a Sabrina in here as well. It is a little bit slower. It is also a little bit safer, but you have to make sure that you still do enough damage on the Luna plus the Sabrina plus everything. And Ikaru just adds a little bit more damage for being able to team up with the whole lineup kind of style. So for that reason, this is a slightly bit better. This is just crazy fast. Also, keep in mind, you might see the times a little bit slower, as that are my fastest runs. That is because this Steam client is just doing about like half a second to a second slower than my phone is doing. Which, funny enough, the S23 Ultra is doing as fast as an S26 Ultra. But they're still both about like a half second to a second faster than what I can get on the Steam client on a relatively decent to good PC. Yeah, so this is, I guess, one of the faster runs possible, and it's still like 0.7 slower than what I had on my phone. So that's just what it is. These are also all of the skins that are the fastest skins out there as far as I know. I'm not 100% sure about the Shaina if there's no Sabrina next to it, because Shaina Sabrina for the skins is all depending on like, okay, what kind of team up do they do? An S1 of this one with an S2 of this one makes this skin faster. An S2 of this one, but an S1 of the other one makes another skin faster. So that's really a difficult one to actually double check, like what's the fastest skin on that. But just a single Shaina, it might be that this one is the fastest. I'm not 100% sure, but in the end, still a pretty darn fast team, and it doesn't really get much faster than this. Also, I have no clue how you would actually make this any faster than this, because this is pretty much as fast as it gets. Like, even with LDs in there, if you were to place a Zerath over the Julie slot, for example, Zerath is slower in animation, so Julie is technically faster than a Zerath. It's just a Zerath is a lot easier to rune. But then you would have to go for definitely different rune requirements over there. Not an easy to build team, as I did mention. Then for Necro, funny enough, I've never ran Necro since the change of the decks. And why do I never run Necro? Well, that's the main thing, what I do scout battle. I tend to scout battle what I farm the slowest. So my general sense of scout battling is actually going towards Necro. However, I did actually notice one thing as well, is that if you're farming Giants and Dragons, you actually get a energy cashback. Whereas if you're farming anything in R5, you're never getting an energy cashback. And that's just like the drop from the monsters kind of cashback is what I mean. So if you do scout battle on Giants, Dragons, Necro, you don't get that cashback and you pay 500. But if you go for a these over here in normal farming, you don't get the cashback. So might you as well just farm Rift Raids or even Rift Dungeons? I've been doing that a bit as well. Those are even cheaper because they're only like 350, but they're just cheaper to go in the first place. But because of the cashback not being there when you do this one on Necro itself, it actually is somewhat worthy to do scout battling on R5. So if you want to do a little bit of min-maxing, then I think that scout battling on R5 and Rift Beasts are pretty much the best scout battles you can do. However, if you have an ungodly amount of crystals, which I did to farm out my, or to try to get my stupid blessing to pop, which still didn't happen, then it could also be a thing that you're just farming whatever you farm slowest normally. There are teams out there that drag this down to about like a 29-second average to 30-second average, but those are definitely hard to come by. Necro is still by far the slowest dungeon if you compare it to the others, like running pretty much the double amount of speed of the thing that I have over here. So scout battling Necro is definitely high on value, especially if you're missing a bit of rage runes, you like some will runes, you like some vamp runes, you like some nem runes. Necro in the end has a pretty good drop table. So if you don't really know what to scout battle, I would scout battle this. I would actually never scout battle Giants and Dragons. That is the main thing. Like if you're on end game account, never do that. If you're somewhat earlier game account and you're just like doing a little bit of everything, which I'll talk about on my alt on the video of tomorrow, doing the 100-day review on that account tomorrow. On those two, it's okay-ish to do this from time to time, but to be honest, it's still better to just farm those and then still drop in your scout battle towards the Rift Raids, because that gives you more value for not having that cashback. But that's a little bit of side talking from this video in itself. Let's move on to the next dungeon, which is a 17.9 second average, which is slightly bit slower than the dragons that we had over here, which is actually finally a good team for this. I'm just on the edge where I don't have enough damage yet, but it is working most of the time. And the main issue for that is this Agrius. The moment he goes for an S2, S2 has a lot less damage output than an S1 because S1 is speed scaling, S2 is not speed scaling. However, if you land the branding on the first hit, which he is max accuracy for, I think there you need like 24 accuracy because the boss is 39 on resistance. But if I miss this branding twice, I don't deal enough damage to kill shit, which is kind of an annoying freaking thing. And then, of course, we have some triple fight on a triple fight on triple fight on triple fight. I actually should make you very low on HP and defense, mainly for the reason that if my team fails, it fails fast and it doesn't take ages to fail, which wastes a lot of time. One of those things out there for a little bit. Min-maxing team idea is we have some Tesha being boosted. In this case, the Tion doesn't have full skill up, so you cannot go for the boost in the second rotation. So therefore, we don't have the boost right away at the mid-boss. Also, we're hitting the right crystal, because if we hit the right crystal, there's no buffs on the boss. And even though you go through the defense buff, the boss has some damage reduction if he has any kinds of buffs. So for that reason, one of those things that you do is you hit the right crystal. You need to make sure that your Agrius both on a skill 1 and a skill 2 kills that right crystal without having the attack buff, which is not that easy as well. And then after that, with an attack buff, you have to one-shot the boss on both an S1 and an S2. So in this case, we did get in brand early, then it's totally fine. And then this one, S1 always one-shots. Would be nice if you can select Agrius to always use S1, but you can't. Agrius S1 is a lot stronger than Agrius S2. So for that reason, you have this thing going on. If you can't make it like this, you can still go for the slightly slower version where you just go straight to boss and you do that with a, what's it called? Deafness in the final instead of this unit, but this team is definitely faster. The main thing is if I get a slight bit of a better relic, that is the easiest upgrade I can make because I have the damage relic on a +6. If I get a damage relic on a +9, this thing would be 100 times easier. Or if I get the different relic, which instead of the attack goes into damage percentage, I have the speed going into attack. Speed going into attack is crazy good for this as well because this Agrius is about like 250-ish speed, whatever speed is needed to get the full speed check on the boss where you do go for a full ignore defense. But the moment you hit that threshold, you also hit the threshold like 2 or 3 times to actually get your full attack plus 2%. And that just adds in a lot of damage as well. Even more damage than the damage percentage by your attack in the first place because you're rocking that much speed. So yeah, that's the main thing. This relic is not really that crazy good. This artifact could also definitely be better than 18 on a quad roll. Yay, quad rolls. Yeah, that's just something that could be improved a little bit right there. But in the end, this team, it does feel about like 1% or something. So that's something I'm fine with, especially for Steel Fortress, because that's always the shittiest dungeon, as I did claim. Then moving on to the next, which is Punish the Script, which is also the fastest dungeon out there, which is also my fastest average, but could even be a 15 or even a 14-second average. However, I don't necessarily have the rune requirements for that just yet, mainly because I do lack that relic that I just mentioned of attack in the main and then going for, whoops, we did not really want to do that. Attack in the main, and then your speed goes into attack. That one is super strong for this because this Agrius is definitely hitting that threshold 2 to 3 times, depending on like how fast you have that stuff. Well, mostly like, yeah, 2 times, I would say, in most cases. So what is the deal with this Agrius over here? Well, this Agrius needs, in my case, a lot of speed up effects. So therefore, I can also make this one a bit slower and still be able to clear the whole thing. How do you make this faster is you switch this out for a Miriam. And then with your Miriam, you get another 30 in your speed. So therefore, you can lower the speeds and that kind of stuff, or even 35. So you can lower the speeds and kind of stuff, which is really nice. I thought it was 30. It's 35. Huh? Should recalculate some of the things that I've done before then, I guess. But yeah, that's at the moment. You can also do this or whatever you would like to use. And then you don't have the extra unit to clear that extra hit. I do use myself a Lucian because Lucian is a slightly bit faster in animations than a Liam is or a Patrick is. But if you need the actual damage output from one of the other two, just go for one of the other two. I just tried something different. Like I went for Illusion. It's a little bit faster in animation than a Patrick is for Patrick S2. And that's the main reason that I went for this. Because as long as you clear the mid boss, it is fine to just use Illusion to do the cleanup over here. And Illusion does also clean up from that point. So would not really recommend to use Illusion. In most cases, I would just recommend to go for like a Patrick or a Liam or whatever you're using over there. But I just tried to do something different, and I don't have any of the other runes up since the decks, and therefore I use Illusion. It would be nice as if I can place the Miriam over here, and then with the Miriam, I would just simply be able to do a lot more value of damage on this whole thing, because I can lower the speed on you. But the thing is, as mentioned, if you land a branding super late, you deal a lot less damage. So the S1 might be enough to clear, but if you don't get the branding in on your second hit, you will deal a lot less damage, which just makes this run a lot slower if you don't fully clear it. But once again, Julie for the insta-clear. That is the main thing that we're looking at, and then this thing is just cleaning up all of the other shits. That's just main things that we're looking at. Yep. And this team, if you land that first brand, it's just so much more damage. If I land that first brand and I put a Miriam in here, we're looking 15 seconds, but as I mentioned, I do really need that relic with your attack and then your speed going into attack, because that is attack over your whole base of your attack. So that's all the attack you have goes 2% extra, and then that happens like 2 or 3 times. Most of the time, like 2 times for people that can handle it. So that's just a lot more damage than this. Plus, this in the end, I would hit this threshold. Yeah, I would hit this threshold twice, but it would also be nice if this was a little bit lower. So like, let's say 1,000. Then I could hit this like 3 times, and this would also be higher for that reason. So there's a lot of upgrades to be made in the relic. In the artifacts and runes, sure, there's some upgrades to make, but it's not as easy. So that's the main thing. Then also question people might ask, what am I farming these days on my account? Well, I've been actually doing a combination of 2 things. One thing is Steel Fortress, because Steel Fortress is now finally a bit of an easier dungeon without a slugfest, without a super slow thing. So doing a good bit of Steel Fortress is pretty nice. I've been farming a lot of giants, mainly because I'm not a big fan of dragons. As I mentioned like 1,000 times on this channel, it's just too much drop table of things I don't like. If we get the fever booster again with the dungeons where you can double drop one of the individual drops, I'm 100% going back to dragons. No questions asked about that whatsoever. 100% back to dragons, but until that time, probably still kind of doing giants-ish, I think. Most of my scout battles goes towards Necro. And actually, as of recently, I've been scout battling a lot in just the dungeons over here. Because I noticed if you are farming a lot of giants and you're just always scout battling this, you kind of get enough, especially if you scout battle the one over here, you kind of do get enough of your material that you can upgrade most of your runes without having too much effort. Only thing you have to keep in mind is that you're probably overstacking your jumps and grinds, so just start using everything on everything you have, and then if you have nothing to use anymore, just simply sell it. That's one of those main things. People might also ask, what am I using? If I'm using, or if I'm running R5, this is my R5 team, or that was not really my R5 team. This was my R5 team that I think I was running over here, was it? Yeah. So most of the time when I run R5, I actually run the global R5. And that is because I scout battle enough on the specific R5s that I do also like to get some of the things that you get over here, but I don't really want to farm this because sometimes I do want to get some rage or some fatal upgrades or some destroy upgrades. And I don't really want a lot of those. I just want those a little bit. So in that case, I will scout battle these mainly for, like, of course, despair and for violent. And I scout battle this one for, of course, will and swift. And then I mainly, if I do farm myself some R5, it's mainly in this one. I'm not even sure if I have the other 2 ruined up even in the current state of what I have. I don't even think so. Like, do I have this one ruined up? Yeah, this looks like a team. This would work. So I have this one I have actually ruined up. And this one I do not have ruined up because you see I'm not using the decks, and this one not at all. So just to showcase how this works, it's pretty much like a similar team what you normally would see. Only thing I have different is that I have a Cadiz, and because of the Cadiz, I have just a pretty much guaranteed chance for a brand. That's the main thing, because team on the right side will guarantee me a brand. because we have things dying, all good. Yep, we have the extra life, brand over there, and then we have the Brandia hitting on that brand. And then on the second rotation, we have a Liam clearing from the brand, so I'm not even using a Belial over here. Is a Belial team not better? It's fucking same. I tried to make a team sub 20 seconds, but it is crazy hard to make a team sub 20 seconds because you only take 2 turns before the jump and 1 turn after the jump. Like 1 to 2 turns after the jump. If you take 2 turns after the jump, it's 22. If you take 1 turn after the jump, it's 20. And it's just all depending on like how are the units delaying one another and that kind of shit show. So it's kind of annoying to get anything sub 20 seconds. I did not manage to get anything sub 20 seconds over there. And this is pretty much like a similar style of how that works. But as I mentioned, I'm mostly scout battling R5 these days because that cashback is just super chill. Oh, this was the wrong team where I just tried to have this thing deal a lot of damage. Yeah, he's good in RTA, but he's actually also, let's see if we can get a random good hit in from him. Do a good hit. 110k. He's just clapping 110k for an auto attack on that. Oh, this unit is so stupid, man. This unit is so gonna get nerfed, but I would not recommend to use that at all. There's better teams out there because he takes a slot of normally like your debuffs and your Belial and your Brandia would already clear the waves anyway. So bit of a fun showcase video of what I'm using these days. So a bit of a recap. I'm farming in Giants. I am doing Scout Battle in Necro. I'm also farming Steel Fortress, a bit of back and forth between Giants and Steel Fortress these days. Mainly because I did farm not that much Steel Fortress, and that's also kind of the video for tomorrow. The best improvements you can make is the things you farm the least. Simple as that. If you farm an ungodly amount of Giants and be like, I never got my Swift quads. Like, yeah, maybe you start farming some Necro because you only need triple rolls for Necro to get upgrades. Yeah, maybe so. But I want to have speed quads. Yeah, fuck you. You're not going to get those. You have already noticed that. Like, you already established that by crying to me that you're not getting those. So might as well farm something that you can get, huh? Not that difficult. And then, as mentioned, for scout battling, it's also a bit of like R5s and good stuff. Well, that's all for this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Tomorrow is going to be the video on the alt, where I'm going to go talking about how many days on the alt, why the alt progressed pretty much further than you did in just 100 days by actually, well, pretty much what I just said, but then explaining it a little bit more. Well, that's the video of tomorrow. If you don't want to miss it out, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.